Okay, so
I'm quite confident my wife is not sleeping around.
The woman feels icky for a little bit, but then
the man feels icky. I would feel quite icky.
Wait, fine, maybe the man feels icky.
Certainly he would. You're calling his wife a whore and him a cuckold.
It prevents men.
If we had mandatory DNA tests at birth, therefore nobody's calling anybody's wife a whore because it's mandatory, okay? Now, if it's voluntarily, yes, there's a stigma there that if you say, yeah, can I get a DNA test for my kid, then you're basically saying that she cheated on you. So when I first heard about Michael Knowles versus Pearl Davis, I was thinking this is David and Goliath, right? Michael Knowles being Goliath. Like, it's clear to see that Michael Knowles is the superior debater. There's no question about it. However, Pearl came in with a lot of the facts. The facts were on Pearl's side when it came to this debate, and she was able to hold her own against Michael Knowles, surprisingly. That's because Pearl Davis is not really a debater at all. She's not skilled in most ways, but here she was actually using some pretty good tactics on that. Now, whoever won the debate, that's up to you. I don't really care. Tricons will say Michael Knowles. Red Pillars might say Pearl Davis. I don't know. Whatever. The case is, you decide that for yourself.
When we talk about specifics, I was, talking about the tender years doctrine.
Yeah.
It's like even in California.
Sure,
If a woman lies about paternity of the child and it's not found out before the age of 2, that man's on child support for life, even though that woman committed fraud. And these are real things that happen in this country.
The man is on, if the father doesn't discover that he's not really the father.
Yeah.
Because he's acting basically as like a duped adoptive father or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again.
Because the way the laws are is it goes in the best interest of the child, which generally means the best interest of the mother.
Right, but you do not need to convince me that the divorce laws are dreadful.
Right.
What you do need to convince me of is that men ought not to be married until the laws are changed.
Now, Michael Knowles likes to operate in what ought to be rather than what is. Pearl's just giving descriptors of what the reality is. So just the sake of humoring Michael, let's take a crack at it, right? Let's start off with what Pearl said earlier about the tender years doctrine. Now, the tender years doctrine was a doctrine that was adopted into law back in 1839 that basically gave 100% custody to the woman during the child's tender years of life, which could vary all the way from the child when it was born all the way to when he or she is 13 years old. Now, the doctrine is still relevant today. Of course, it varies with state to state, but it always gives majority, if not all, custody to the woman during the tender years of the child's life. Now, one thing that we've learned since 1839 is statistics. Statistical-wise, women aren't very good at raising a child by themselves. 65% of prisoners come from single mother households. 50% of teenage pregnancies come from single mother households. Not only that, if you look at school shooters and serial killers, they all come from single mother households. I think it's all the school shooters except for the exception of one that came from a joint parent household. But other than that, the vast majority come from single mother households. So how do we combat that? I would say to Michael, look, here's a pretty good idea that will help men. 50-50 custody. This is going to be for the best interest of the child. This will put men back into the household. Now, this is already in play over there in Florida, and I'm quoting a lawyer here. In essence, it gives unwed fathers more standing in court, whether they seek it or not. Previously, many fathers complained that they only had parental rights when the mother sought child support. The ability to make crucial decisions over the child's health, education, religion, and living arrangements was assumed to belong to the mother, who was considered the natural guardian unless the parents agree to a parenting plan. Now think of it that way. When given full authority for the woman has the power over the child's health, education, religion, and living arrangements. The father does not. All the father is at that point is just a wallet for the mother. So now I would say if we apply this law and give men a fighting chance in court to get custody, or at least default setting 50-50, we can actually get more fathers back into their child's life. One thing that I've learned when it comes to little boys is that women cannot raise boys into men. It's just an impossibility, okay? Men usually tend to be the discipliners. So therefore, when a boy is raised with discipline, he's less likely to be a fuck up in society. Now with little girls, when given discipline, little girls will be raised to not undermine a male's authority. She has a father in the household. She'll be raised to respect the opposite gender, rather than just being raised by her mother, saying that your father is a bad person, your father ain't shit. She's going to grow up to have some kind of resentment, or at least say that I'm equal to a man in a relationship, which will essentially be dreadful on the marriage and lead to divorce. So in other words, 50-50, we have the man still there in the children's life as they grow up. Now we'll have boys being raised to be men and girls being raised to be women. And when the next generation comes in the future, we're going to have better men and better women for marriages. And that will be one major component, changing divorce laws, that will trickle an effect in the future, leading to a better society. That's how I would answer Michael Knowles in that situation, using facts. Let's do it. And again, hey, Michael, as we all can say, facts don't care about your feelings. Let's move on.
There should be mandatory DNA testing at birth.
No.
I don't know why you, okay.
Because it's calling my wife a whore to do that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Why? Okay, so
because
women,
the assumption of first of all, mandatory, good grief, but the premise of it is that my wife is sleeping around.
okay, so
I'm quite confident my wife is not sleeping around.
The woman feels icky for a little bit, but then
The man feels icky. I would feel quite icky.
Wait. The woman feels icky for a little bit. Fine, maybe the man feels icky.
Certainly he would. You're calling his wife a whore and him a cuckold.
It prevents men.
If we had mandatory DNA tests at birth, and that's mandatory, it's for everybody. Therefore, nobody's calling anybody's wife a whore because it's mandatory, okay? Now, if it's voluntarily, yes, there's a stigma there that if you say, yeah, can I get a DNA test for my kid, then you're basically saying that she cheated on you, which is a horrible stigma. This is why a lot of men don't ask for a DNA test at birth, because they don't want to look bad in front of her family and her and everybody else in the room, which is why most men will say, you know what, I ain't going to get that DNA test because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But if you make it mandatory, therefore everybody has to do it, every man's going to know right from the start that it's 100% their child. It's very simple.
From being put on child support and raising kids that aren't theirs.
You're saying they're
And if
married?
people want to opt out of it, fine, you can opt out.
So it's not
whatever.
mandatory.
But
It's voluntary, but there it is voluntary. Yes.
I think it would be better if it was mandatory. I think that's a better.
So then the men can opt out.
Oh my gosh, what are
It's
you?
semantics, bro. Look,
I'm just trying to figure out what
No,
you're saying.
okay, I would say mandatory DNA testing at birth. That I think would be better. But
Even though the men don't want it.
Look at.
So you're telling a man now,
she just said it would be better, Michael. Michael's really focusing on the semantics here, but I understand what she's saying. I know Michael understands what she's saying too, but he's of course just trying to twist her words.
you're contradicting what a man has to say.
Because you haven't been in that situation. Do you know what I mean?
I've been in
But it's
birthing
so funny.
rooms
Why do you
a couple
guys? Why
times.
do you guys make light of like situations that?
Pearl, I have been in the situation and you have not. I've been in the birthing room twice.
I'm talking about a man raising a child that's not his.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not an uncommon thing.
At least one of my kids looks like me. The other one looks a lot like my wife.
No, but okay, but we're trying to make jokes, but this stuff is serious, Michael.
Yeah,
Like this
sort
is
of.
serious. Like
I guess
But-
the implication
so-
the implication though is that in 2% or whatever, where the woman has cheated or something. And again, we're bringing in lots of
And-
different demographics and circumstances here. But in that case, then the parents get divorced? I thought you just said we're going to ban divorce.
no. Well, okay, if she's committing fraud, then yeah.
She's committing adultery. Do you think adultery is grounds for divorce?
In the United States, we don't consider a woman lying about the child being the father's kid as fertility fraud. We don't count that as that. Although by definition, it would be considered fertility fraud. And Michael doesn't really seem to have an issue with that at all. Like, at all. So, Michael mentioned right there in the 2% of men that are raising children that aren't theirs and they don't know it. that's actually a very low-balling aspect. From the studies that I've seen that they've done basically all around the world, this is one that came out in Liverpool. It's 1 in 25 dads, not the real father. They're actually raising kids that they're unknowingly raising children. So this shoots out to around 4% of the study. They have studies that range from 1% all the way to as high as 30%. And we've seen this on multiple occasions. It goes literally as high as 33% of men that aren't the biological father raising kids that they're unaware that aren't even their children. Now, just to put that in perspective, let's just put it as a conservative number at 4%, right? 4% of men are raising kids that they don't know are theirs. If you do the math on that, that's we have about 75 million dads in the United States. By that logic, that would be about 3 million men in the country, and this is the lowest, 3 million men in the country raising kids that are not theirs and they don't even know it. So when Pearl comes out and says, hey, this is pretty unfair, hey, these men are raising kids that aren't theirs, and then on top of that, she did mention earlier in the video about laws. So if a man doesn't catch that this is his kid, and they separate, and then he finds out that that's not even his child, he still is obligated to pay child support. So, and I was looking at this as well. So it's mostly in California and a lot of these other liberal areas where they don't care about you being the biological father as long as you're the parental figure, right? They only care about that. You have to pay child support. This overwhelmingly screws over men that they didn't even create the kid themselves. So there's basically 4 different types of situations where the man would have to pay child support of a kid that isn't his. So the first one is called presumptive children. A presumptive child is one convinced by your wife during your marriage. The child is automatically presumed to belong to you and your wife. No paternity test needed. Therefore, even if it's later discovered that your wife cheated on you and the child is not your biological child, depending on the age and other circumstances, you could possibly remain obligated to financially support that child. So you're married to a chick, she gets pregnant, she says, yeah, this is your kid. Later you find out that she cheated, that's not your kid. The man is still obligated to pay child support. Now here's another situation where men get fucked over in the law. This is called voluntarily declared child. If the woman has a child and you aren't married, but you sign a voluntary declaration of paternity or the birth certificate after the child is born, you are acknowledging that you are the father of that child. You will be declared the father of that child and will be obligated to support that child. In this case right here, this basically covers people that aren't married, right? If you have a kid out of wedlock and the woman says, hey, this is your kid, and you sign the birth certificate, and then later you find out it's not your kid, you could still be liable to pay child support. Now, I've looked up the laws in other areas. I myself live in Texas. In Texas, if you find out that that's not your kid, you're not obligated to pay child support. However, whatever money you've put into that child before finding out, you don't get a fucking refund. Because again, even in the state of Texas, they do not acknowledge that a woman lying about the child being yours is fertility fraud. We don't acknowledge that. A woman could lie about it, get child support, and later find out that it's not your kid. There's no fraud involved, okay? It's the same thing with, of course, we know rape allegations. A woman can give allegations to a man and not face any repercussions. Even if you look at abortion, the way Republicans look at abortion is it's murder, right? It's murder. However, the woman doesn't face any repercussions, nor are Republicans pushing for any repercussions to punish the woman for murdering her own child. So a point being here that Pearl is trying to make, the laws are not in favor for men. Women get catered. Okay, mandatory DNA test. Here's one component just to help out that 5% all the way to 30% figure of men raising kids that aren't their own and they don't even know it. That's one way to counteract that, right? But Michael says, no, that's going to make me feel icky. It's going to make my wife feel icky. Okay? Facts don't care about your feelings, Michael. I mean, right when he says that he's going to feel icky, off the bat, I'm just like, Michael Knowles, what the heck are you saying, man? You know, like now all of a sudden you want facts to care about your feelings. Really bad response by Michael Knowles. I think this is why he kept on pivoting and telling Pearl that, wait a sec, I'm just trying to understand you. You're contradicting yourself here. Do you want divorce? You said you were against divorce. Bro, who cares? Acknowledge with the descriptors, okay? She's giving you descriptors, and you're saying you're going to feel icky about it. Again, big L on Michael Knowles. But hey, comment down below your thoughts. Do you believe that maybe mandatory DNA testing would help out with that? Do you believe in what I was saying about 50-50 custody to the man and the woman for the betterment of the child? Give me all your thoughts down below. If you disagree or agree, tell me down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, guys, Trump 2024. I'm your host, Jake Varr. Peace.